green. Are you an ultimate Eagles football fan? Well, you're in the right place. Ready? This is Birds 365, hosted by the new Mac and Mac, Jody McDonald and John McMullen.
Here we go!
Who collectively have covered and talked about more than 50 plus years of Eagles football. Kick off your day with Birds 365. You'll get debate.
We love to argue.
You'll get the real story from inside the locker room. And you'll hear from some of the great football minds from around the region. You're about to become an Eagles insider. Get in the game. Join Jody Mack and Johnny Mack and join the football community that flocks to Birds 365. Birds 365 starts right now.
Welcome to the NFL. Let's go! Let's go! Go!
Tis a Monday get-together here on the JAKIB Media YouTube channel. This is Birds 365 with your buddy, pals, and amigo, John McMullen and Jody McDonald. After a nice long weekend where John McMullen was worried about the Eagles down at the NovaCare complex, I was ripping up Kentucky Derby losing tickets because I did not have the 80-1 shot winner, Rich Strike. But that's okay. We're ready to turn our attention back to football. And, John, the countdown is on. As they say in the open, 50-plus years you and I have been covering the NFL combined. The only season that matters is the next season, which we got a little bit more of a taste of this past weekend because the Eagles actually had a camp for their rookies. The newbies are all in town, working out diligently, feverishly. All right, maybe they ran around in shorts and T-shirts and the like. Your quality time spent at the NovaCare complex, Johnny Mac. Get a good feel for the Eagle Rooks?
Yeah, I mean, I sense a Super Bowl team developing. You always get a good feel that first rookie camp practice, which is even scaled back. You know, it's interesting. The Eagles had 19 tryout players, Jody, on hand. About 40-something total there. 19 of them were tryout players. Probably the most notable was John Harrar for a couple reasons. He used to play basketball at Penn State. He's a local kid, so people might know him a little bit, but he's 6'9". But then I'm thinking to myself, you know, I've been in a lot of rookie camps over the years, and
Right.
There's always, you know, you always want to sign like one or two of them. Coaches always, you want to set like it's sort of an example. Like if you do everything right and you work hard, we're going to reward you, and you try to reverberate that throughout the roster. That's always been sort of a conventional thinking. That's always made some sense to me, to be honest. But I'm looking at what they do now, and it's like, what are these? How do these kids show anything? I mean, they're not allowed to do anything.
Right.
How are they? And we'll see if the Eagles sign any of them. They haven't yet, but we'll see. I guess you can show up in the classroom. I guess you can do it that way. You can, but it's always, it's always been kind of a fun time of year from the fact that, you get a good story like that kid that I just mentioned, and, at least for a couple of weeks, people get excited, but I don't even know how they can show off in this environment in today's NFL, but 19 of them were trying. And, it's a dream. I don't want to dismiss it. But it's really, really difficult. That's what I was thinking. I was like, how do these tryout players even, open the coach's eye? And we'll see.
Right. And I read your stuff over the weekend. Everybody else's who covers the Eagles on a day in, day out basis, those that were there. Not once did I find any information about any Nick Sirianni competition. I was wondering, we're going rock, paper, scissors, we're going free throws.
Well, they had the ball, the ball card. Why can't I think of the word? In the NBA where they roll out the balls. They had that in the NovaCare Complex auditorium. They have
Ball rack was the
Ball
word you were
rack.
looking
Thank
for,
you.
yeah.
Thank you, Jody. Yeah, I'm struggling. I'm drowning here. I'm looking for Jody Mack to help me.
I'm sorry. I didn't know where you're
It's
going,
early.
John. I would have helped you, but I had no idea what you were
Yes.
talking about.
So the ball rack that Larry Bird would take the 3-pointer off and, put his hand up and win the 3-point
Yes,
contest. So the
that's
ball
it.
rack.
A rack, yeah.
They had that in the NovaCare Complex Auditorium. So
Well, and that's got to favor the tight end, former basketball
yeah,
player
you would
from
think
Penn
so.
State.
That's a good
If
point.
he's leaning on hoops to decide,
Yeah.
because you're right, they do so much actual football, so little actual football activity because they're limited and they're always injury conscious and the like. They did announce this weekend that during any of the mini camps, 7-on-7 is the max we're doing. We're not doing 11-on-11 because that's a lot of guys in a space. They could actually have contact and get injured. So you're right that they're doing very little football stuff. You got to have something to separate the individuals. Who's the best shooter out of the group? Roll the rack out.
Well, and I don't even know. As a 6'9" power forward, maybe he's not a shooter. I don't know. The Penn State fans out there can tell me how well John shot it. Not that you can't shoot well. Joel Embiid is a heck of a shooter. So, but tend to get taller. And they did do some individual drills. Obviously, there were some. I had video you can see on the JAKIB Media YouTube channel. So they are doing some individual drills, and everybody got excited by Britton Kobe, sorry. The Utah returner, he's small and quick, and obviously you're going to show up this time of year when you're small and quick because, I go back to
like Darnell Pumphrey? Is that what you
mean? Darnell Pumphrey. Yeah, perfect example. And we'll see. I mean, the Eagles need a returner, so maybe Britton Kobe can make some noise. It's a little bit interesting seeing him. And then obviously you get to see Jordan Davis, and, boy, he's big.
Did Nakobe Dean go out and limp around?
He was fine.
All the injury issues that he had that had him drop down into the 80s of the NFL draft.
He was fine. Again, T-shirts and shorts, though. If you have shoulder injuries and pec injuries, they're not going to show up in T-shirts and shorts. But if you got to block and grab and try to push people off you, that's a different category. So we'll see. I think the most important part of Nakobe Dean is the medical recheck that Howie Roseman had mentioned. We'll check him out when he gets here. So. No news is good news. We haven't heard any bad news from that aspect. So, yeah, I think the question, and I said it from the start, I never got the pec part of it. I said, worst case scenario, all right, he's got to get a pec surgery. You redshirt him a little bit. Maybe he misses half the season. Maybe he misses the whole season. Who cares? Never got that part of it. From a talent standpoint, maybe it drops you from first to second round, that type of thing. The other stuff is probably the more important stuff, and that's degenerative stuff and shoulder, knee, blah blah blah, and all we can do there is wait and see and hope the Eagles doctors are right and other doctors are wrong. That's all you can do.
Exactly. And he's going to be a guy who's going to play with a chip on his shoulder once the season starts. Shoot, he's already showing a chip on his shoulder. I just read before he started the show that apparently he's fired his agency. So he's really ticked off that he fell to the third round. Not just, all right, well, I guess I'm going to have to prove myself. No, he's mad because he knows it cost him money because the salaries are slotted. If you're a first-round pick, it makes a second round, third round. So he's going to have to go through his first contract that what he feels is not going to be enough for his value, his worth, and he's making his agent pay for it because he fired. And the Wasserman Group is a pretty big agency, as a matter of fact. I know maybe they advised him not to run at the combine, and he felt he could have and should have run and took their advice and didn't do it. But here's the upside for the Eagles. You got yourself one motivated middle linebacker. The kid is going to come out with a massive chip on his shoulder. He's ticked off at the world because he thinks the world, a.k.a. the NFL, disrespected him and selected him where they selected him. The Eagles got to be the beneficiary of that.
Yeah, and that's one of the things you got to be careful about if you're an agent in this league, because you can't overblow. You can where a kid's going to go in the draft, but if you do, then they're going to be disappointed after the draft, and it's a very competitive industry, and you also have to have a feel for it. You have to understand where the kid's going to go. I don't think anybody had Nakobe Dean falling to the third round, but I do think a bunch of people had him going in the second round, mainly because of the devaluation of the position, his size, perhaps some concerns about that. And, how do you bring that up to somebody who's, the best player on the best defense in college football? And it's not the easiest thing to understand, but it's better be honest early than pay for it late. And it looks like they paid for it late. So, but all of this could work out in the Eagles' favor if he comes in with the chip on his shoulders, you mentioned, Jody, and plays like he did, like he was at Georgia. I mean, could be the best linebacker the Eagles have had in a really long time, certainly since Jeremiah Trotter, I would think.
I agree. And you're right about the linebacker position not being valued the same way it has been at times in the NFL. But here's the only thing you need to know if you're Nakobe Dean. If you think you were the best linebacker in college football this year, and I think you have every right to do so, Devin Lloyd went at 27. You went at 80. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's something that you can't take if you believe you were the best linebacker in football. If you believe all these medical reports are way over evaluated, that you're ready to go out day one, make plays in the NFL, no injury is going to stop you. That's why he's not happy, and that's why he's coming out with a chip on his shoulder. And I think the Eagles will very much benefit from that. All right, other thing I wanted to get into the first segment before we get our first guest up. Two good guys we've had on before, fans of the faves of the show. Joe Santoliquito from Philly Voice going to hop on in less than 15 minutes from now, and our buddy Rob Maaddi from the Associated Press is going to contribute to today's program. Eagles had their mini camp, got to see some guys, got to talk to some guys, get the first look at some of the guys in the Eagles colors. But we're also adding to the Eagle front office. There's been a lot of subtractions this offseason, JM. A lot of guys moving on to other organizations, which I think is a tribute to the Eagles as an organization, Howie Roseman specifically as a general manager, that he picks good guys that other teams in the league see their value and spirit them away for their own teams. But the Eagles actually made a pretty big ad this weekend. And the ongoing back and forth between themselves and the Cleveland Browns is still very much in place. Andrew Brown,
it's like a trade at the end of the day.
Exactly.
Yeah. Catherine Raish goes to Cleveland, and Charles Walls is coming back to Philadelphia as a director of player personnel. It's going to be interesting. I know, the Eagles were very happy about splitting that job last year. And that was the job that Ian Cunningham and Brandon Brown shared, who both got assistant GM jobs. One sort of majored in the scouting part of it, as it's been described to me, and minored in the pro part, and vice versa. And they really liked how that part of their front office worked. So it's going to be interesting to see if Charles Walls is one of two, or he's just going to be the flat-out director of player personnel. But, Tom Donahoe left as well in recent days. His contract expired, and the Eagles are not going to renew it. Now, Tom is 75 years old.
I was going to say, he's been in the league forever, and he's kind of been here in Philadelphia forever. And, yes, there aren't as many out front and often available to media individuals out of the front office as there are in some other sports. I don't really even know what Tom, other than I recognize his name, and we see him every once in a while in a shot of the draft room on draft day for the Eagles.
Well, that was a high-profile one when he was mad that they drafted Milton Williams. And
right.
Who knows? A lot of us thought, all right, well, Tom's done after that.
Got one more year.
Yeah, they gave him the year to finish out his contract. Turns out he was done after that. Tom has been a very important part of this front office. Former general manager in the league, You know, ran the personnel department in Pittsburgh for years. He gave Andy Waddle his first job way back in 1999 with the Steelers. And so you're right. He's been around for a really long time. But if you look at when these things have happened before, and by these things, I mean the Eagles, it's been pretty constant. They suffer this attrition in the front office because people try to hire from the Eagles, which is a good thing. You're right, Jody. It shows, people aren't going to hire people they don't think are well trained. So from that part, it's a feather in the Eagles' cap. But 2016, when the shift from Chip Kelly to back to Howie Roseman 2.0, as I like to call it, they fired all Chip's people as well, all the football. Remember, Chip was running all the football ops. They gave him the whole candy store. So in essence, Tom Donahoe ran the department until they got Joe Douglas and put everything in place. And they had a pretty good draft. And he's always been sort of that break glass in case of emergency guy. And even this year, when they lose so many people, they start to lean on Tom. And as I said, because of his age, and he didn't want to do it full time anymore and run the department. So he's happy to step forward when they needed him, happy to step back when he could step back. It's a bigger loss than I think people realize, because he's got so much experience. He's seen it all. He's done it all. He is that sort of, security blanket in the personnel department. But, they want to use this attrition to sort of rebuild the department, get a little bit younger, and have this group when it, the merry-go-round ends, so to speak, have this group together for hopefully a longer period of time. And we'll see how it all works out. Obviously, they have a number of positions they got to hire for. They've gotten rid of some lower level scouts that we talked about last week. Pittsburgh still hasn't made a decision. So in theory, Andy Waddle's still in play for that job. And that's the one thing I would put out there. As I just said with Tom Donahoe, he's very close to Andy Waddle. In a lot of ways, he's his mentor. As I said, gave him his first job in this league. It's been here every day in Philadelphia since Andy got here. And he's out. And Casey Waddle, which we talked about last week, Andy's brother, is out and was fired. Let's be honest. They can, he's got a year left on his contract. The Eagles are going to honor it, which is nice, a nice thing to do. And basically they moved on from, because they have somebody they want to promote, who they think is going to be really good at the job. And she was going to leave. She had another offer, so they had to move quickly. And that's sort of the politics behind Casey Waddle. But the bottom line is, if somebody fires your brother and your mentor, I wouldn't be happy.
Did they fire both guys? Did they?
Well,
Tom's was it a wink and a nod. Listen, Andy's going, so we're moving on. It's going to be a clean sweep type thing. I know he hasn't been hired yet. There's been no announcement that he's going to be the general manager of the Steelers. But these two moves seem to lead you to believe that there's a foregone conclusion that he's going elsewhere, that maybe part of why Tom Donahoe and Weidl's brother was still here was because they appreciated Weidl. They wanted Weidl as a key component to their front office, and they now know he's moving on. So there's, all right, well, we don't necessarily have to stay with these guys anymore. Would you not be shocked now if Andy Weidl doesn't get that job?
I can tell the Eagles don't know if he's getting that job. They're not, in other words, they're not doing this because they think Andy is leaving, which is the strange part to me. Because I would think, if there's, and if somebody gets a GM job, they're leaving. I mean, there's no negotiating. There's no, okay, can we do this to keep you? I mean, that's too big of a promotion. They're leaving. But the Eagles don't know if he's getting the job, and they made these moves, which is a little bit strange to me. That's the strange part to me. Now, I explained the Casey Waddle situation. All right. Tom is 75 years old, as I said. His contract expired, so technically he's not fired. And maybe he does just want to walk away because he's 75 years old and he does want to retire. But I will say the timing is strange. You at least have to bring up the questions, because that's the first thing I thought is, what a strange time to move on from the vice president of player personnel's younger brother and his mentor. But there could be explanations for it. And Amina Solomon's going to be the one who gets promoted, I believe, to Casey's job. If she was going to leave the organization, maybe you can explain that to Andy Waddle and say, well, we couldn't lose her. If Tom truly retired on his own accord, that's an easy explanation. But those are things I can't really answer.
Okay. Might be a difficult conversation Howie Roseman is going to have if Andy Waddle doesn't get the job in Pittsburgh now. Yeah. Oh, by the way, sorry we had to fire your brother. Sorry we had to let your mentor go, but we still love you, big guy. You're still in charge. That might be a tough conversation to have. All right. We're hoping to have a conversation with our first guest coming up next. That would be Joe Santoliquito from PhillyVoice.com. Covers the Eagles, covers everything in Philadelphia. I know he covered a little boxing this weekend, as a matter of fact. I gave him a call on Sunday morning to talk boxing. I said, hey, we haven't had you on Bird 365 in a while. You want to come on? He said, yeah, I'll get up for you guys. Don't know if he's up yet. We don't see him in the green room, but we have faith that Joe Santoliquito, PhillyVoice.com, is going to join us next here on Birds 365.
Field of life, First Trust Bank is there for you.
Champions on three. 1, 2, 3.
Because Philadelphia dreams deserve a Philadelphia bank.
Do you stream on a Roku, Fire Stick, Android TV, or Apple TV? Now you can watch 6ABC 24/7 with the 6ABC Philadelphia streaming app.
The big story, and that can use.
Search 6ABC Philadelphia and start streaming today.
In Philadelphia, we celebrated the miracle with pride only 5 years ago. And then the following morning, IBEW Local 98 members went back to work, building this city, rescuing our communities from decay, and inspiring the young men and women of the region to take pride in who we are. Like the Cats, Local 98 members believe in hope.
To learn more about who we are, what we do, and career opportunities with Local 98, visit us, IBEW98.org.
At Stateside Vodka, every new customer gets the world's best rocks glass. Free.
What's that?
A rocks glass?
You're telling me that bottle is cut in half?
You could say that.
Holy shit.
The glass is for cocktails, right?
It's for this, this, and that.
Is the length of the glass equal to your...
You betcha.
But is it made out of...
Glass?
Okay, but is the rim...
Smooth?
Will you stop doing...
That?
I'm the professional here.
And you're telling me I can get one of these glasses for free?
That's right. 1 free rocks glass per customer with each first-time purchase of Stateside Vodka. All from the company that's highly awarded. 0 carbs, 0 sugar, and deliciously tasting vodka. So good, it just disappears.
Got you Mac and Mac guys here on Birds 365. Still attempting to hook up with Joe Santoliquito. He just texted me and said, having browser issues.
We've all been there. We've all been there, Jody.
You are a writer. I'm a talk show host / YouTube show host. I'm not a computer guru the way you are, McMullen and or Joe Santoliquito. You writers supposed to be able to figure this stuff out. What do you mean browser issues, Santoliquito? I guess you
gotta have 2 or 3 different browsers to be ready to go. You know, the schedule's gonna come out this week, Jody, and evidently there's some teams leaking out the early Monday night football matchups, and the Eagles are one of them. In fact, it's going to be the home opener on September 19th.
Who's going to be the home opener?
The Eagles' home opener is going to be on September 19th, so it's week 2 on Monday Night Football.
Ooh.
The Minnesota Vikings coming in on Monday Night Football. Week 2 is going to be the Eagles' home opener.
And now, thank you much for sharing this with me. I hadn't seen it yet, and all of our viewers. This, even though I, in a way, I like it. Also, in a way, it just annoys the snot out of me. The leakage that these things will come out in drips and drabs over the next 4 days. The official schedule release is supposed to be Thursday night at 8:00. It has become a TV production for both the NFL Network and ESPN. It's going to be simulcast, which I don't quite understand, but it's that big a deal that the schedule release has become. But like you just put out there, little things will leak out. What games?
Well, real quick, this is the NFL, so this isn't a leak. They've announced the first 2 Monday Night Football matchups.
It's a leak. It's a stone cold leak. It's an official leak. They're not calling it a leak, but if the schedule release is supposed to be Thursday night, why are we finding out about a game on Monday before?
True. If you're interested, by the way, the first game, because the first Monday Night Football matchups have been announced in a week 2 doubleheader. So 7:15 is Titans at Bills on ESPN. 8:30 is Vikings at Eagles on ABC.
So they're going to be 2 games on at the same time.
It looks like it. They're going to overlap. Who knows what they're doing?
Well, that's because they will milk every single television dollar out of it that they possibly can, that there are double Monday night games and now streaming as compared to over-the-air network. The NFL knows how to do this.
They do.
Everybody hates Roger Goodell, except his 32 bosses who love him because he negotiates as good TV deals as he does. And
which you and I have explained.
In the owner's pockets.
You and I have explained numerous times how good Roger Goodell at his job, and people, man, they don't get it.
They hate him. They hate him. Why? Because he's the dean of discipline. Because he's the guy who has to merit out punishments to players on the squad that you root for. So, damn that Roger Goodell. Who is he? Who do you think he's running again? Yeah, he does. And he does a great job of it for the NFL.
Yeah. And people don't realize that if they disliked him that much, they would realize that he's only doing what the owners want. But no, they do exactly what the owners want. And they levy all the criticism at Roger Goodell, and they just sit in the background counting their money and laughing.
And as John just told you, they've already started to leak out some information on the schedule coming up. Eagles, Vikings. So first chance to see Justin Jefferson. Will Jalen Reagor still be with the Eagles? Will Justin Jefferson and Jalen Reagor be on the field at the same time?
I didn't even think of that. They won't be on the field at the same time for obvious reasons. They both play offense, but also because one's going to be playing a lot, barring injury. One best case scenario would be him being here and not playing, and maybe he's got a 53-man roster spot. But that you're going to hear all those stories that week.
Oh yeah, comparing the numbers, they'll have number comparisons to be able to look at, and it's not going to be a pretty view, as a matter of fact. So Eagles coming early in the year against the Vikings. Eagles have 9 home games, 8 road games. You remember last year they played 9 road games. I'm going to go out on a limb here. Are you ready for this, McMullen? This is this is major information. This will be equal to the biggest season in the history of the National Football League. Because last year it was the biggest season in the history of the National Football League because they added one more game and took it to 17. This will be an equally big season in the National Football League because they're playing 17 games again. It will be the biggest season until they go to an 18th game, which I think is 2 or 3 years away. But, don't kid yourself. We're going to get there at some point. It's going to 18. So we will have the biggest season. And for Eagle fans who love going down to the games, it's the biggest season you've ever had because last year Eagles played an extra game on the road. This year they will play an extra game at home, which, oh, by the way, if you don't like going to the preseason games, that's a good thing too because you only play one home preseason game because you have the extra regular season game.
Yeah. And, for me, it's good because those Monday night games are brutal. They start so late, but at least it's at Lincoln Financial Field. So that's a positive. You're not on the road. Does mean you're going to be on the road week 1 for the season opener. So I'm sure we'll figure out what that will be soon enough.
All right, let me take a quick look at the 9 home games this year. We know Giants, Cowboys, Commanders, those are locks as they play in the division. You just told us the Minnesota game is going to be week 2. Other teams coming here to Philadelphia, the Packers with Aaron Rodgers' son, Davante Adams. You got Doug Peterson making his return.
Well, we need the road games to figure out where they're going to open. The road games.
Oh, okay. Let me quickly go through the home games, and we'll jump over to the road. Peterson coming back with his Jags. Tennessee, that'll be a fun game. A.J. Brown against his former mates. That was just like, all right, Tennessee's coming to town. Now it's got more nuance to it because it's the new.
And
Eagles
obviously,
star.
Doug coming back is exciting.
Right. I said Jacksonville, Tennessee, Pittsburgh, and the Saints are the teams coming to town this year into Philadelphia. Road games, Giants, Washington, Dallas, at Arizona, which we thought might be a Mexico game. Didn't quite turn out that way. At Chicago. They've done absolutely nothing to improve things around Justin Fields. I love the kid, and I want to see him succeed. They've done nothing. You talk about giving a guy weapons. At least Jalen Hurts got A.J. Brown added to the mix. What has Chicago done? Zippity-doo-dah. They're hanging that kid out to dry. Detroit, Houston, and Indy, which we thought was going to be a big game because it would be the return of Carson Wentz. Well, Carson Wentz is returning, but he's returning as a Commander, not as an Indianapolis Colt. All right, which of those games do you think is most likely the Eagles opener?
I'm trying to think. Last year they opened, obviously, in Atlanta, I believe, was the opener. That was the big routes, and we all thought Nick Sirianni. So there's usually one NFC East game kind of early, and then the rest of them are late. I don't think it'll be an NFC East game, so I do think it'll be sort of like it was last year at Atlanta, a team that not necessarily is that exciting. Run those down again, Jody.
Road games for the Eagles this year. Cowboys.
Besides the
Giants,
NFC East.
Commanders, at the Cardinals, at Chicago, at the Lions, at the Texans. I hope it's not the Texans game 1 because it's probably an Eagle win, but it's boring. And at the Colts. That's not a killer road schedule. That looks to me to be actually a pretty easy road schedule.
I did hear the Giants were going to open up against Minnesota. So I'm going to say Bears. That's my prediction. I'm gonna say they do a NFC East, NFC North thing. I'm gonna say they open up in Chicago, and that's 2 big markets. That would be, Chicago's going to be a bad football team, I think, as you pointed out, Jody. Matt Eberflus and Ryan Poles are acting like they know they have some time to rebuild that thing. So they're not going to be very good, but you get them early. Big market, 2 big markets. That could be a big local rating bonanza for the NFL.
Not a bad opening weekend matchup between two teams. Don't know. The Eagles, of course, made the playoffs last year. The Bears did not. And apparently they're giving Matt Eberflus and Ryan Poles some time to build this thing up. Because you look at the team's offseason moves. I know we're at Philly show. We're not a Chicago show. I got some buddies in Chicago. Oh, they're not happy with the Bears in Chicago.
No, they are not. Very passionate fan base as well. Maybe the most like Philadelphia. The closest to Philadelphia, I think, would be Chicago.
That's pretty good. That's a pretty good comparison, J-Mac. They are a lot alike. They take their football very seriously in Chicago, same way the Eagle fans do here in Philadelphia. And they're going with a quarterback. They don't know if he's good enough yet. Same exact as the Eagles with Jalen Hurts. Neither one of them locked in for years to come. The Bears are more invested because they used a high first-round draft pick that they traded up for to get their hands on to give them the team. Howie Roseman has done more than the new GM in Chicago to put weapons around his quarterback this year with the A.J. Brown acquisition. The Bears have done nothing to upgrade their offense this offseason.
No, they haven't. They know. Those are, the two teams are the Giants and the Bears that have made dramatic changes at the top of the organization and pretty much signaled we're going to rebuild this thing. We're going to, I don't think it's complete tear downs. We always talk about like the NBA, but pretty significant tear downs for the NFL, and in that these two teams don't expect to compete. Doesn't mean you can't, because all NFL teams have good players, but they also know they have a little bit of time. And a lot of places don't have a little bit of time. You either have a coach or a GM under the gun that has to make decisions to win now. Bears and Giants look like the two teams that are like, you know what, we're gonna try to build this thing the right way with new people, and they're not really overly concerned about competing this season. And those are two giant markets. That's probably not the greatest thing for the NFL, to be honest.
Here's one reason why I like the schedule, and John just gave, in case you just jumping aboard, streaming on in, better you than Joe Santoliquito, who we're having major issues with being able to get punched up. Thank you for jumping in to Birds 365. While you're at it, do us a favor, hit the like button, like, share, and subscribe here on the JAKIB Media YouTube channel. Here's why I do like the Eagles schedule this upcoming year, and we don't know exactly when the game's going to be played. We know the Monday night second game of the season, now that John has found that out, that they're going to be taking on Minnesota in a doubleheader day where the games are going to be overlapping. Did you see where the Eagle game is going to be broadcast?
ABC.
That one's going to be
the
on
first
ABC.
game, Bills Titans on ESPN, Eagles Vikings on ABC.
ABC. Okay, well, that's good. We got the network, although ESPN is every bit the network that ABC is, but I digress. Here's what I do like about the Eagles schedule, even before we know what days, and don't kid yourself, when you play a team, coming off what game, how it's going to work. It's a big part of it. But I just ran down all the home games, all the away games. Here's what I do like about the Eagles schedule. They're non-divisional home games this year. Green Bay, Minnesota, Jacksonville, Tennessee, Atlanta, and the Saints. You got a couple of teams that weren't good last year in Atlanta and Jacksonville. All those other teams, Saints were borderline making the playoffs. Tennessee had the best record in the AFC. Green Bay had the best record in the NFC. Minnesota's got a ton of talent. I'd rather play those good teams at home. Because if you were playing Green Bay and Tennessee on the road, you'd be an underdog. You're probably going to be an underdog against Green Bay anyway, but it'll be closer at home. You have a better chance to win. I'd rather play the teams that I think that I have at least as talented a roster, if not a better roster, on the road, because I can match up well with them, even though I'm going to have to overcome a home crowd advantage. I don't know what Houston's going to be this year. They think they're going to be improved.
I would argue they're going to be improved, but I would argue they're still a bad football team. And you got three bad football teams with Chicago and Detroit and Houston. That's pretty good. I agree with you. I mean, if you want to go on the road, those are the types of teams you want to face. And obviously you have the NFC East games, but so to me, it's only Arizona and Indianapolis. Arizona is going to be a good team. Similar to last year. I don't think they're going to be great, but I think they're going to be good. And Indianapolis, I think, is going to be good. I think Matt Ryan's going to be better for them, even as an aging quarterback than Carson Wentz was. So they'll be a good team, but not a great team as well. That's best you can hope for in the NFL. That's pretty good road schedule.
Right. I think and it's all done. It's not like, and I know there's conspiracy theorists out there. This is a theory. This is a set schedule that they use. You play the teams on a rotating basis, so it isn't like Roger Goodell or someone else in his office is handpicking the schedule to make it either easier or harder. You know exactly who you're playing. The only thing that changes are the dates. I think they got a break. Sometimes it's the luck of the draw. Teams improve. Teams get like Chicago coming off last season. They could have gotten better. They could have made moves to get themselves into a more competitive. I don't think they did this offseason. So you're getting Chicago on the road this year in a spot where you should be able to beat them. I'm excited about that potential matchup. I like the Eagles' schedule. It's not the toughest schedule. And again, when we say toughest schedule, that's all based on last year's record. You don't know what everybody's going to be this upcoming year. So feel free to either acknowledge and agree with what I say or completely disregard it, because we got no idea how good anybody's going to be.
Everybody thought the Eagles were going to be easy for them last year. And, they turned out to be a playoff team. And a little bit more difficult than probably most other cities projected going into the season. Certainly Atlanta was probably all hyped up. Not probably. I was there. They were pretty hyped up. As far as Atlanta does, it's not, it's not the most passionate sports city. Like, I'm trying to speculate with Chicago being potentially the home opener. They're going to be fired up. Chicago's going to be fired up. They're not going to realize how bad their football team is yet. And that's one of the things that probably doesn't work out in your favor, because I always say, if you do have a bad football team on your schedule, I've been saying this for years, Jody, you probably want to play them late. You don't want to play them early when they don't know how bad they are, because they're fighting and clawing and doing everything possible. But, you're nitpicking at that point. It's better, it's better to have, I don't think anybody in the NFL is a patsy, but it's better to have, there are certain teams that, are not ready to compete. And I look at Chicago's one of those teams acting like they know they're not ready to compete.
And, oh, by the way, if we had done this same Bird 365 show a year ago, and the Bengals were on the Eagles schedule. They had been the year before when they played the infamous tie and Doug Peterson punted and people were ready to run him out of town then. He did get run out of town. I don't think it had anything to do with punting against the Bengals, though. You have to ask Jeff.
We got Joe, Jody. We got Joe. He's only got audio. But let's bring Joe. Let's pop Joe up. Our buddy Joe.
Joe Santoliquito from Philly Voice. Good enough to hop aboard with us. What the heck's wrong with your computer, Santoliquito?
Are you there, Joe?
Oh, we got
he's too hyped up from the Canelo Alvarez fights.
A disc that looked like Joe Santoliquito. Didn't that disc look just like Santoliquito?
It looked just like him. It was that might be his new Twitter avatar.
Well, we'll see if we can punch Joe up. We're crossing our fingers with Rob Maaddi coming up next hour if we don't get Joe. John gave you a little heads up. One game of the Eagles' upcoming schedule, date and time, has officially been announced. Week 2 in the season. It's
interesting, by the way, you mentioned, double header is probably the wrong term. It's more of a staggered type of thing. It is interesting to me. I mean, the NFL typically has standalone games, or, they have standalone windows. Sometimes it bleeds over and you have that. It's interesting to me. They're going to start one game at 7:15, one game at 8:30. And obviously it's ESPN and ABC, and it's the same company owns, but it's a little bit strange to me how they're doing it staggered and instead of standalone. Not the typical NFL way of doing things.
But we'll see what the rest of the schedule is going to look like Thursday night. Well, let's see now. The Sixers played last night. What's their schedule look like? Because Thursday is good because the Phillies will be on the road. They're out on the West Coast, so they're not going to be starting till late night, so you can get a whole bunch of schedule watching in prior to the announcement of the draft. All right. As per our picture on the screen here, I'm assuming Joe Santoliquito is ready to join us audio only today. Are you there, Joe?
Yeah, can you guys hear me?
There we go. And the little guy is talking just like Joe. How are you, Joe?
I'm sorry. I'm sorry about this. I mean, the problem is me, not my computer system, and the problem is the very many cobwebs in my head. But I did come up in the time we've been away from each other. I came up with a trio with our three bald heads.
Yeah, but we can't see your bald head. What good is it? If we had your picture.
Well, actually, I think what you have up is probably better.
And they should probably do that with me and McMullen too.
Yeah, that's
true. But what do you guys think of the ball Taraj?
There we go. I like it. I like it.
I like it. Yeah. Well, now all we got to do is get you up, and so we can see you, so it actually works for everybody.
You can tell you're around boxing and entourages. You can say
it. Yeah.
I like it.
We'll hold off on the boxing conversation with you. We haven't had you on since the draft took place, Joe. Most people giving rave reviews to Howie Roseman for what he did, moving around, the picks that he made, the future that he secured by getting a first-round pick next year from the Saints. How good do you think Howie Roseman's draft was?
I thought it was excellent. I thought going in, I was a huge proponent of them getting Jordan Davis. I had the pleasure of spending time with Jordan in Atlantic City during the Maxwell Club Awards dinner. And, I mean, guys, we all know the way of pro football, college football, high school football, where, I'm listed as 5'7" in the program, 140, when they actually may be 5'5", 130. I've never met a person who they actually lied about in the negative. Well, I met Jordan, and I think he's listed at 6'5" or 6'6" or 6'7", and he actually looks far larger than anything he's listed.
Yeah.
Very affable young man, incredibly approachable. And I also got a chance to turn around and delve into his backstory. Here's a guy as a young man, as a sophomore in high school. He used to sneak into the bathroom to avoid weightlifting sessions. And he always used to stay in the same bathroom, the same time. So, and obviously he was large then, so there was no way of escaping it. They always found him. And through some time and through some tough love, we can call it, he learned about work ethic. He learned about the demands that he'd be going through. And it's a reason why I also say that his best football, believe it or not, I believe is still way, way ahead of him.
Yeah, I agree, Joe. I mean, you look at the waves in that Georgia defense and the way they ran things. They had so many talented kids. They had to get them on the field, and they would, generally be winning games by a significant margin. So it was easy to rotate. And obviously, in the NFL, that's not going to be the case, and he's going to need to play a little bit more. But I agree with you. The first thing I noticed about Jordan, the Eagles listed him at 6'6", 341 officially. And I'm, he's one of those rare guys that you could say, wow, he could put on some weight. He doesn't even look, typically when you see a 340-pound man, and I put Jordan Mailata in this category as well, who's basically 380, and you say, he doesn't look big. He looks good for that weight, and Jordan Davis is in that same category. Now, he did lose a lot of weight for the combine. He showed off his athleticism. But as far as that part of it and what you garnered from Jordan as far as being able to work up to the NFL level of conditioning. Do you get the sense that he understands that?
I do. Each level he's played at, and again, I can't stress this enough, that he's a late bloomer. I mean, he was someone that Georgia, that no one really noticed. And he didn't start until his senior year of high school. I mean, a lot of these guys covering the high schools the way I do in this area, in the Philly area in South Jersey, is these young men today, you guys know, they're picked up early. You know, you see a flash as a freshman or sophomore. You know, you're going to get offers early. Jordan didn't get anything major until his senior year in high school. I think for him, ideally, and I think he's even admitted, and I had the chance to speak to Chuck Smith, the former defensive end for the Falcons, who is Jordan's
great
personal
pass rushing coach, by the way. Yeah, great pass rushing coach.
I think the ideal weight for him is 330. If he could play at 330, I think they're going to get the best Jordan Davis.
And we'll see if he gets that. He looked good in the shorts and T-shirts they ran around in this weekend. Much more important will be the Sunday afternoons. Davis was the biggest draft addition. A.J. Brown was certainly the biggest overall addition for the Eagles this year when they made their draft day trade. He comes in with 3 very good years under his belt with the Tennessee Titans and got a new contract extension going forward as well. And we know he's also got a very good relationship with the quarterback of the Philadelphia Eagles. He and Jalen Hurts are boys. Here's my only concern with A.J. Brown. It's a great addition. He makes them a better football team. It shows that the Eagles are willing to commit cap resources to get a virtual star type player. Do you have any concerns, Joe, that the Eagles, a.k.a. Jalen Hurts, will try and force the ball to A.J. Brown? That because he is the big addition, because he got the contract extension, because he's tight with the quarterback, that the quarterback will work too hard to try and get the ball to A.J. Brown?
That's a great question. No, I think I got the impression this thing may come organically. I'd like to think it would. I'd like to think what they created last season was a run first, pass second team, which is almost the team that you could say came from the 1950s. But so you have something established already. I like to think with the array of receiving talent now around Jalen Hurts that he's not going to feel necessarily compelled to always go to A.J. Brown. I think A.J. Brown, they even have a chance to sometimes even use him as a decoy to set up some other things and maybe even develop some other players. So that's a possibility of how he can be used. We all spoke around this time last year, and I will say this, and I'll say this on the record to you guys. I had major doubts this team would even win 7 games last season. Nick Sirianni and the Eagles deserve a ton of credit. But with what they've added, with Brown, with the drafts, with the draft picks and everything, this is now an 11, or I'll just say an expected to be an 11 or 12 win team. And I wrote this in Bleeding Green Nation a couple of weeks ago after the first day of the draft. Did the Eagles tonight win the NFC East? And I'm going to stick my little stubby bald head out there and say I think they're the team to beat the NFC East.
Really?
With these additions. Now, a lot of things are going to be very dependent, obviously, on Jalen Hurts. But what the pieces they have around him, you can't turn around and certainly make any excuses for Jalen Hurts right now.
Yeah, it's interesting, Joe. You bring that up, and I think you're not going to be the only one that takes that sort of look at the NFC East landscape. Dallas has kind of lost some significant pieces, come back to the pack a little bit. The Giants we talked about a little bit early, Jody and I, they look like they're in a complete rebuild, and the Washington Commanders are certainly not going to scare too many people. So I think you're not going to be the only one that expects the Eagles to take a significant leap forward. And that changes the expectations. It becomes a different model. It's different being the underdog and nobody expecting you to win. Now people are expecting you to win. How do you think that changes things for Jalen Hurts and Nick Sirianni?
I think it changes things quite drastically. I mean, again, this was a team that I think right now going into the season, in my opinion, I think they're 2 years ahead of the plan. This was a team that was, maybe in Sirianni's third year, they were going to make the playoffs. I think they got far more than they expected even. I don't think they'd come out and admit that. But in my strong opinion, I think they got far more than they expected or anticipated last season. And now this is a team that's capable. I'm not saying they're going to, but they're capable of going and advancing at least to the divisional round of the playoffs. This is a team that has gotten closer. I'm certainly not going to say they're ready to topple the defending Super Bowl champion Rams or the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, but that gap between them is certainly very close. And I think right now, certainly a lot of major questions still need to be answered. First and foremost, I believe that comes in the secondary. I don't think you guys would argue the point that I think you look at the NFC East, going down a brief check mark off the top of my, again, stubby bald head, is that they have, I think the Eagles have, I think we all agree the Eagles have the best offensive line in the NFC East, in the NFC East. I think right now with the addition of A.J. Brown now, they have the best receiving core in the, I'm sorry, I keep on saying that, the NFC East. They have the best offensive line in the NFC East. They have the best receiving core in the NFC East. They have the best defensive front in the NFC East. They have a decent, well, Washington, certainly Washington, I have to, there's a fight there. Arguably the best defensive line in the NFC East. They've certainly improved their linebacking core immeasurably with the additions. The big key now is what they can add to the secondary. But right now, this is a team that is ready to scratch at the NFC Championship surface, but it's a team that, at least in my opinion, can make the divisional round of the NFC playoffs.
Let's talk about those secondary needs that the Eagles have. They have not replaced Steven Nelson with someone from outside the organization as a starting cornerback. They've got about 12 cornerbacks in camp right now, undrafted, guys already there, none of which have proven anything in the National Football League yet. And they got Marcus Epps stepping into a more significant role. He played enough last year, filling in for injured players and in a rotational basis, that at least he's got some of an NFL resume in place. Have they not put enough attention on CB2 and strong safety 1 with this team during the offseason? Or do you believe what the Eagles seem to believe? No, they've got their answer already on the roster at those positions.
I don't think they have the answer, and I don't think they think they have the answer. Right now, again, on the surface, you say something. I go as far as this, and I think you guys may even agree with this. I don't even think they have the answer in Jalen Hurts. I think right now he's the best fit. He's the best at what we have right now, and we have to put a smile on our face to turn around and put that out there. But this is an Eagles team that went after every quarterback they could try to get their hands on. Okay, well, now that didn't work out for them. Now let's try to surround Jalen with what we have in terms of offense, in terms of defensively. There's guys there. I'm sure they're waiting for the Giants to cut their guy. Right now, the name escapes me of who the Giants may part ways with.
Bradbury.
I'm sorry?
James
Bradbury. Yeah.
Okay. And I don't know who's on the safety market now, but I got a feeling Howie Roseman's not done. I got a feeling Howie Roseman, and I'm give him a ton of credit. I mean, I think he deserves high grades for what I believe and what I've said and even what I wrote is the best draft that he's had. And he's smart enough to know, he can't go in and seriously compete. And I think these guys want to compete now. They think, there's certainly some pieces there together to make this push, to make this run. I don't think they're Super Bowl contenders, but I would certainly put them, among the top. I don't think it's a stretch to put them among the top 5 teams in the NFC right now. Maybe 4 or 5, but this is a team right now that's leaning in that direction of winning, and that is the last piece of the puzzle, and they know it. They know it. They have to know it.
Joe, last one from me. You've been doing some work with the NFL and the high school aspect of football in the prep area. And they recently put out as they do every year, their reports of all the players drafted, where they came from. Tiny Ellenwood, Georgia, wins the NFL draft. They got 3 kids drafted from Cedar Grove High School in Ellenwood, Georgia, more than IMG Academy, more than anything. But I want to talk to you locally. Obviously, Texas, it's usually Texas, Florida, California. This year was Texas, Georgia, California, Florida as the top 4. Pennsylvania and New Jersey both had 5 players, kids drafted. How do you think the high school football in the Philadelphia area and the Delaware Valley, where do you think it is as far as the traditional strength? You think it's up, it's down, it's typical? Where do you think it is?
I think it's the highest it's ever been.
Nice.
I think you're getting guys here in the past. You'd get a rare gem. I had the pleasure of covering Kevin Jones. I had the pleasure of covering Marvin Harrison. Now you're getting 4 and 5 and 6 players of that caliber. I just got done doing something on Jeremiah Trotter Jr., Trott's son. He, as a true sophomore, St. Joe's Prep product, he's a true sophomore, will be Clemson's starting middle linebacker this season. You have Marvin Harrison Jr. at Ohio State and what he turned around and did in the Rose Bowl. Kyle McCord is the backup. Is the backup quarterback there at Ohio State. You're seeing, incredible talent coming out of this area. And up until last year, you had 3 NFL head coaches that were from this area. Now, Joe Judge has gone back to roost there with Bill Belichick in New England. But you still have 2 Philadelphia Catholic League graduates in Coach McDermott up in Buffalo and Kevin Stefanski in Cleveland that are, again, products of the Philadelphia Catholic League. This area has traditionally been a basketball area, and it still very much is. But in terms of the football talent that it's producing now, and what I know of the other areas of the country, we're producing as high a grade of talent better than most. I mean, and this is Southeast PA. This is how I'm excluding Pittsburgh. This is Southeast PA. What we're producing in this area is I got out of college in the late 80s. I've been doing this for a scary 30 years. And this is the best it's produced because we're producing, again, talent that, again, it's not just that 1 or 2 or 3 shiny gems. It's 4 and 5 and 6. Put it this way, when Nick Saban comes up and he's knocking on your door, which has been the last 4 or 5 years with the talent that's come out of this area, that says all you really need to know.
And, oh, by the way, Marvin's kid this year coming out of Ohio State, we're going to be talking about him as a first-round draft pick because he's going to get a chance to catch the ball from C.J. Stroud, another guy we're going to be talking about a lot here in Philadelphia.
Hopefully not that much.
We shall see. I'm hoping that Jalen just balls out this year. If not, there'll be a lot of C.J. Stroud conversation. Always a pleasure, JS. Thank you much, my friend. Sorry we couldn't see your, what do you call it, stubby? I would say attractive balding head. We'll try and get the what do you call the 3 bald amigos again?
The Baltourage.
The Baltourage.
The Baltourage, yes. And actually, you probably got a better picture of me right now than probably would be the appearance. But listen, if you guys don't mind, just a real quick parting remark on a very spectacular individual that we've all had the pleasure of knowing. And just a goodbye to Ray Didinger. I know this is very fresh news in terms of his retirement. This is a guy that you guys know is top of the mountaintop. And you guys also know there's a lot of people that are top of the mountaintop that don't have the personality that Ray has. We know a lot of people that are on top of the mountaintop that it's your pleasure to meet them. This is a man that helped me personally get in with the Maxwell Club, which has led to things, which has led to some other things. He took the time of day to deal with a pesky little run of a stub of a person to give me that time. And he's a very, very special person. Obviously, we know him as a Hall of Fame writer, but more importantly, Ray Didinger is a Hall of Fame person. And he's going to be very, very missed. And I think we all agree on that. I had to get that out.
Not a problem, Joe. And Ray, thank you. We thank you. I was going to hold off on mentioning Ray till the final segment of the show, but thank you for doing it earlier in the show. And thanks for coming on yeah, we need to see that stubby little bald head next time.
Okay, thank you, guys.
That's Joe
Thanks,
Santoliquito, been covering the Eagles for years for Philly Voice and other outlets as well, including our buddy over there at Bleeding Green Nation, BLG. All right, John McMullen, Jody McDonald, your Mac and Mac guys coming back. Gonna cross our fingers. Rob Maaddi, he's a good-looking dude. McMullen, McDonald, oh my God. Santoliquito, yeah, not much to look at. Maaddi's not a bad-looking dude, so we're hoping to get Rob Maaddi
reality
up
television star. Yeah, we can't compete with that.
Yeah, we'll see if we can get Rob Maaddi up here in about 15 minutes here on Birds 365.
Field of life, First Trust Bank is there for you.
Champions on 3. 1, 2, 3.
Because Philadelphia dreams deserve a Philadelphia bank.
Do you stream on a Roku, Fire Stick, Android TV, or Apple TV? Now you can watch 6ABC 24/7 with the 6ABC Philadelphia streaming app.
The big story on Action News.
Search 6ABC Philadelphia and start streaming today.
In Philadelphia, we celebrated the miracle with pride only 5 years ago. And then the following morning, IBEW Local 98 members went back to work, building this city, rescuing our communities from decay, and inspiring the young men and women of the region to take pride in who we are. Like the Cats, Local 98 members believe in hope.
To learn more about who we are, what we do, and career opportunities with Local 98, visit us, IBEW98.org.
At Stateside Vodka, every new customer gets the world's best rocks glass. Free.
What's that?
A rocks glass?
You're telling me that bottle is cut in half?
You could say that.
Holy shit. The glass is for cocktails, right?
It's for this, 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 and that.
Is the length of the glass equal to your...
You betcha.
But is it made out of...
Glass?
Okay, but is the rib...
Smooth?
Will you stop doing...
That?
I'm the professional here.
And you're telling me I can get one of these glasses for free?
That's right. 1 free rocks glass per customer with each first-time purchase of Stateside Vodka. All from the company that's highly awarded. 0 carbs, 0 sugar, and deliciously tasting vodka. So good, it just disappears.
Mac and Mac guys here on Birds 365. McMullen and McDonald's on a Monday, kicking off a week. Coming after a weekend where the Eagles did get some workouts in, rooks and undrafted free agents and some make-good invitees into town. Had 42 guys down at the complex, got some work in, individual drills, no team stuff. They even went so far as to say, don't look for any of 11 on 11 stuff on any of our mini camps this year. They're going to keep it to 7 and 7s and not really drill down on what they're going to be doing once the season starts. If you're playing 7 on 7, Johnny Mac, is the defense going to be 3-4 or 4-3? Because that's 7, right? 3 and 4, 4 and 3. You got to add up to 7. It's a conversation we're going to be having all off season long. How is Jonathan Gannon going to roll out his defense this year? The additions that they've made, the players that they've added seem to fit a 3-4 more so than a 4-3. And it all starts with the big kid, Jordan Davis, in the middle. Do you have any concerns about the fact that right now We don't know if the Eagles are going to be a 3-4 or 4-3 defense. Chances are they're going to be some kind of hybrid of in between those two. Is Jonathan Gannon the right guy to be trying to do that?
Well, to answer your first question, no, it doesn't concern me for two reasons. One, they're going to be neither, as you mentioned, they're going to be a hybrid, and most teams are. Those terms 3-4, 43, it's really odd even man front. It should be. They're very antiquated, very similar to, I always argue. I try not to call defensive ends anymore. I try to call them edge rushers. It's a better term for the position now. Flex receivers. One of the things that upsets people contract wise is that type. It was a big deal with Kyle Pitts, tight end versus wide receiver. He's not a tight end. He's not a traditional tight end. He's more of a jumbo flex receiver. So there's sort of a labeling problem in the NFL right now. 34, 43 is one of them. They're going to be what they were last year. They just have better players to fit into what they did. So a lot of times they look like a five-man front. When they play the Sam linebacker, say on first down, you would see last year was Jannard Avery more often than not, standing on the line, and you'd essentially have a five-man front. But what they want is a traditional, what most people would describe as a nose tackle, and that's where Jordan Davis fits in. So that's why I get why people ask the question. It's not really an important designation is how I would describe it. That's why it's not that big a concern. You're just going to have a player better equipped to handle the 0-in-1 technique, as they call it, than Javon Hargrave or Fletcher Cox were last year when they were playing that position kind of out of position, is how I would describe it. It's just a better fit for what they did last year.
I hear what you're saying about calling guys edge rushers rather than defensive end, because you're right. Depending on the guys that you have, and they went out and spent a lot of money on us on Reddick, who's going to be an edge rusher? Is he going to be a linebacker? Is he going to be a defensive end? His most important job is going to be to get to the quarterback, and it doesn't matter what designation he has before the play starts. Just tell me you get to the quarterback. But yeah, I think there are some people out there that don't understand the nuances of the descriptions of the positions and the like. Do you think the Eagles have enough in their front to do? Can we call it a front seven? I guess not, because there's so many plays where there's 5 defensive backs on the field. You don't really have a front seven either. Front 6.5. What do you want to call it?
Well, sometimes that's the thing. Sometimes it is a front seven, but typically, when you talk about it, you say front seven. You say whether it's going to be 4 edge. It's going to be 2 edge rushers. It's going to be 3 interior defenders. It's going to be 2 inside linebackers. That would be the typical 3-4. Or the 2 defensive ends would be the typical 4-3. But the Eagles were a hybrid front last year. They'll be a hybrid front this year. Most teams are in the NFL now are hybrid fronts, and most teams it's the same thing. They'll say, "Who's the starter, Jody?" And people give you in a 4-3, they'll give you 3 linebackers. Well, really, the starter is the slot corner because they play more, but nobody says that. I mean, all you got to do is look at the percentage, and that's the actual base defense. So you always say, who's the 4-3 base defense? That's not the base defense. The base defense is nickel, because the nickel plays more than that third linebacker. But it's hard, for whatever reason, it's always hard to change these labels. But from a coach's standpoint, I don't think it matters very much because they don't care about those labels. So, I got a chuckle when somebody asked him, "Are you going to be a 3-4?" And Nick's like, "I'm not going to tell you that." He doesn't want to tell you that because he doesn't want you to know. But everybody knows, so it's kind of everybody in the league knows, so it's kind of chuckling.
All right, so just a little bit of speculation here, and again, The Eagles aren't telling us anything, and they want to get that quote-unquote competitive advantage, which I think Nick oversold a little bit this year, but that's just between you and me, Johnny Mac. Hassan Reddick, who will be inside of him on most passing downs?
Well, that's the question, because he's going to be on the field. And we always say, barring health, obviously, if guys are healthy, the edge rushers on third down and long are going to be Hassan Reddick and Josh Sweat. And then you got to figure out, okay, who's inside? You can kick Brett. The Eagles, the good thing is the Eagles have a lot of options. Fletcher's still a good pass rusher for an interior defender. Javon's a very good pass rusher for an interior defender. If Brandon Graham is healthy, he's always been great at sliding inside. They have a lot of options, and it comes down to the fact that, that's a good problem to have. But, if push comes to shove and you force me to bet, I would think it would be Hassan Reddick and Josh Sweat on the outside, Brandon Graham and Javon Hargrave on the inside if Brandon's healthy. And, are you going to have some issues with Fletcher Cox? Maybe. You gotta smooth that over.
Right, and a question that will certainly come up. Last year, again, you can go back and check the numbers. The Eagles were not a heavy blitzing team. Kind of a stayed the course from the defense coordinator switch from Jim Schwartz to Gannon. Gannon wasn't a blitz-heavy, blitz-crazed defensive coordinator, and that's why, at least in my opinion, that's why the Eagles finished next to last in the NFL in sacks. They could have been a little bit more aggressive. They could have sent more guys. Hassan Reddick is going to the quarterback. Is he going as the fourth defensive line pass or the fifth? Are they going to have five guys across the line, and Reddick's going to be the guy furthest out who's going to be coming most off the edge? That's a question that we won't know until they get out there on the field. Will Gannon be more aggressive? Will he put five guys into his blitzing, and will those five guys all be defensive linemen? If you consider Hassan Reddick a linebacker, well, then the answer is no, but I consider him more of a defensive line guy. Who is he going to bring when he's bringing five against a pass on third and long?
Well, it's good to have options, and he's got options. I mean, he's never going to be a big blitz guy because the goal is to get pressure with four, and that's not just Jonathan Gannon's goal. That's everybody's goal. If he could get pressure with three, you'd love it. The more people you can have in coverage, the better it is. But it gives you more options if you're not getting home. Yeah, all of a sudden you can have that odd man front with five, as you mentioned, and Hassan Reddick is outside of Brandon Graham on the left side. You have Josh Sweat, you have Fletcher Cox, you have Javon Hart, you have everybody out there. But then you also have one less on the back end, and that's not your strength right now. And there's still work to be done. I think they're going to add a veteran body somewhere, corner or safety, maybe both. So it's not a finished product, but if we're sitting here talking today, Jody, you don't want to have to have five go after the quarterback, because then you're leaving the weakness of your team even a little bit weaker. So you want to get home with four.
That's very fair. Right now, the Eagles still need a little upgrade in the secondary, if you ask both me and Johnny Mac. All right, we will ask that question to our next guest. Oh, we got his smiling face in the green room. Rob Maaddi of the Associated Press, South Philly's own, even though he's living down in South Florida these days. Rob Maaddi going to join us next here on Birds 365.
field of life, First Trust Bank is there for you.
Champions on three. 1, 2, 3.
Because Philadelphia dreams deserve a Philadelphia bank.
Do you stream on a Roku, Fire Stick, Android TV, or Apple TV? Now you can watch 6ABC 24/7 with the 6ABC Philadelphia streaming app.
The big story on Action News.
Search 6ABC Philadelphia and start streaming today.
In Philadelphia, we celebrated the miracle with pride only 5 years ago. And then the following morning, IBEW Local 98 members went back to work, building this city, rescuing our communities from decay, and inspiring the young men and women of the region to take pride in who we are. Like the Cats, Local 98 members believe in hope.
To learn more about who we are, what we do, and career opportunities with Local 98, visit us, IBEW98.org.
At Stateside Vodka, every new customer gets the world's best rocks glass. Free.
What's that?
A rocks glass?
You're telling me that bottle is cut in half?
You could say that.
Holy shit. Glass is for cocktails, right?
It's for this, 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 and that.
Is the length of the glass equal to your...
You betcha.
But is it made out of...
Glass?
Okay, but is the rip...
Smooth?
Will you stop doing...
That?
I'm the professional here.
And you're telling me I can get one of these glasses for free?
That's right. 1 free rocks glass per customer with each first-time purchase of Stateside Vodka. All from the company that's highly awarded. 0 carbs, 0 sugar, and deliciously tasting vodka. So good, it just disappears.
This is Birds 365 with McMullen and McDonald here with you on the JAKIB Media YouTube channel. We got our favorite South Philly bud, South Florida bud. Our favorite bud, period. It's got the good backdrop going. Rob Maaddi down there in lovely South Florida.
Central Florida, we're going to go. Central.
You consider yourself Central or South?
Yeah, I'm geographically challenged, guys. I don't know.
Tampa. He's in Tampa.
What the heck is that?
Yeah, that's Central.
It's south of you.
Yeah,
right.
It's definitely that's the important
exactly
part.
right.
That's the important part.
And I believe if you drew a line across the state of Florida and cut it in half, it would also be in the south half of Florida, not only south of us. It's not Miami, okay?
Yeah, it's not Miami.
If anything north of Miami is
Miami's
considered Central Florida, all right, yeah, then Tampa's in Central Florida.
Let's put it this way: Rob's better off than we are in Central or South Florida. Whatever.
It's been hot, guys. It's been like high 80s, man. It's a steam.
I'm sorry, Rob. We just had a freaking 3 days of. I haven't seen the sun in 3 days.
Oh, well, the Phillies finally played a game, right?
Yeah,
after back-to-back rainouts.
Two in yesterday, even over the cloudy skies.
Nice.
Yeah. All right, Marty, we love having you on because we can not only talk Eagles, we can talk about the whole league, and we'll do a little of both these days. But we haven't had you on since the Eagles draft. Howie Roseman at his Monty Hall best, making deals prior to the draft, during the draft, moving up, moving back. How good a draft do you think the Eagles had?
I think on paper he had a pretty good draft. It's hard to give a real evaluation, right, when these guys haven't stepped out on the field. But I think you can give a grade when you see a guy like A.J. Brown acquired, because that was a first-round pick they traded for a proven, established wide receiver, and you know his production level. You know what he can do. You don't have to hope, wait, or anything along those lines. So for that pick right there, you got to give him an A. But you look at Jordan Davis and what they were able to do, move up 2 spots to get him. Yeah, I know they traded a little bit too much maybe to go up from 15 to 13. But if that was their guy, and it certainly was, and the Ravens were probably going to take him, I know they've said they wanted him, then that's what you had to do to move up and get Jordan Davis. Yeah, there's concerns anytime you get a guy who's like 340 pounds about stamina and conditioning, and can he play a big amount of snaps, and how much is he going to be out there, and what's he going to be like in the fourth quarter? Is he going to have energy, fresh legs? Well, you happen to have other guys up there who are pretty darn good in Fletcher Cox, Javon Hargrave, and he's not going to be counted on to be a 75, 80% of the snaps kind of guy right off the bat. They can work him into the rotation. And then when you look at Cam Jurgens and what they were able to do there and bring in a guy, I like offensive linemen from Nebraska. I like guys from now that's central U.S. right?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah,
I like guys.
We'll call it the Midwest.
All right, I like guys from that area of the map when you want to bring an offensive lineman in. He's got positional flexibility. He might be able to fill in at guard while he awaits to take over at center for Jason Kelsey, whether that's next year or the year after that. I know Jason was really contemplating retirement this year, and he came back, and that's something that this could be his last ride. And you get Nakobe Dean in the third round at first round value. That's pretty good. Now I know there's some other issues going on with Nakobe Dean, but when you look at the talent on the field, if he's healthy, if he's able to go out there, you got a first round guy in the third round, and I think that's pretty impressive. And at the same time, too, going into the draft, they were able to get that first round pick next year. And now you get this talent this year, and you still have an extra pick in the first round next year. I think Howie Roseman deserves all the kudos he's been getting, which is pretty rare around draft time for Howie.
And a second round pick, Rob, in 2024.
Yeah.
Throw that in there as well. So I guess I'll start there with Howie, because there's been tremendous upheaval in the Philadelphia scouting department. Ian Cunningham, Brandon Brown, we already knew. Now Catherine Raish is going back with Andrew Berry. Tom Donahoe is retiring, or, not definite, but his contract expired at 75 years old. You've been around, sort of bridge, I like to call it Howie 1.0 and Howie 2.0. One of the knocks from afar with Howie has been, how he gets along with people. Can he work with people? Can he be in that collaborative type setup that Jeffrey Lurie wants? He seems to have cleared that hurdle in the 2.0 version, or has he? Is it worth considering why there's so much upheaval all the time in Philadelphia?
That's a great question, John, because when you see so many people continuing to leave, you can look at it in two different ways. The Eagles have structured the organization in such a way that they have so many valuable pieces in that front office that other teams around the league want to constantly take away from and learn from and try to bring that culture and bring that kind of level of talent and experience into their building. That's the way that you can look at that in a positive sense. Now, if there's some underlying reasoning behind some of these people moving on, like, hey, they're not getting the power that they want in Philly, or they're butting heads with anyone in that front office like Howie, if there's some kind of relational issues happening there, that there's a possibility. Now, it's not like they're moving on they're getting promotions, they're getting better jobs, they're getting other titles. They're not moving, they're not taking the motions to go somewhere else. They're not going somewhere, and you really don't have to let them leave if it's if it's a lateral movement either, right? It's got to be something to a position that is a promotion. So that there could be some of that, John. I think when someone is difficult to work with, they don't always, there's tendencies are still there. And no matter how you may try to overcome those and probably do a better job in a lot of areas, I think when push comes to shove and some of those tendencies are still there, they may show up at times, right? And I know that there's been a lot of deep dives into the Eagles front office structure and how it works, and Jeffrey and Howie's relationship, and maybe some of those people in there who are moving on realize or recognize that they're not going to be able to penetrate that wall of Jeffrey and Howie and become part of the inner circle, that close inner circle of trust, and therefore they may have a better opportunity to have more power somewhere else. And if they get that opportunity comes along, and it seems like everyone who moves on there's familiarity where they go, right? There's someone, like you look at Catherine going to Cleveland, Andrew Barry, there's a relationship there. And there's always some sort of history with people. And that's how it is around the league. People are going to go where they feel comfortable to work with someone who they know. So it's a great question. I don't know right now to tell you for sure that that's happening, but it wouldn't surprise me if there's some underlying reasoning why, you get a better job offer and you're like, heck, I'm out the door.
All right. I want to ask you about another Eagles draftee, and that's the linebacker that they took in the third round. Not the third pick, the third round of the NFL draft. And I was very bullish on Nakobe Dean before the draft started. Yes, we got some late information about potential injuries that I didn't know about. That certainly wasn't emphasized, wasn't commonly known information about the injuries that he had dealt with during his collegiate career. I just judge what the player does on the field, and he was the best linebacker in college football this past year. So to get him in the third round just boggles my mind, and I think it's going to be a major addition for the Eagles. He's supposed to be a little undersized. He's 5'11". He's not as big as most linebackers as far as poundage goes as well. But I remember 5 years ago when Aaron Donald was a little undersized as a defensive tackle in the league. And there are 12 teams that wish they had called his name rather than the Rams at number 13. How big a deal is the fact that at least a couple of inches and 10 to 15 pounds, the average NFL middle linebacker is a certain size, and the Kobe Dean comes under that? Is that a reasonable reason for him to drop, Rob Maaddi, or is this the NFL just being set in their ways at what a perfect player for a position is supposed to look like? I think that a whole bunch of teams misjudged Nakobe Dean, and Eagles have benefited that. Or am I just too big a fanboy of Nakobe Dean?
I think for some teams that may have been an issue. I don't think that's an issue for 31 teams. I don't believe 31 teams are going to look at him and say, all right, he's undersized when he is that talented. And as you said, the best linebacker coming out of college, production-wise, talent-wise. Now, guys, I heard something entirely different than the pec injury. It hasn't been reported. I'm not reporting it right now because it needs more work. But I heard something entirely different about Nakobe Dean, and if true, it's understandable then maybe why he dropped a little bit.
Injury, if you're gonna
non-injury
related.
Non-injury related. So it was non-injury related, something entirely different that I heard. I haven't heard too many people discuss what it may have been, but it's something that would make it a little bit more understandable. When you look at the injury and what he said, right? He said, hey, I don't need surgery. I've talked to second opinions, and the Eagles did their homework. So maybe there are teams that still are concerned. Okay, he's coming in as slightly damaged goods, that maybe he doesn't need surgery now and he may need it at some point during the year. I can't get into all of the teams and all of their minds and all of their thinking, but I think those are all reasonable excuses for why he may have slipped. But good for the Eagles, because you end up getting a guy that talented in the third round who people wanted them to see. When they took Cam Jurgens in the second round, Nakobe Dean still on the board, and I know Twitter lit up. Eagles Twitter did. Hey, why didn't they take Nakobe Dean? And then they even said, we were thinking about it, but we're going to take the offensive or defensive lineman all day over another position in round 2. That's what they value. But he fell to him in the third round. Let's see if he can get out there. I like what the kid brings to the table. I think we all know they haven't had a linebacker, an impactful type playmaking linebacker, since Jeremiah Trotter. It's been a while, guys. So he's got those size issues, but I think you could add 15, 20 pounds of muscle. He's not going to get the inches, but if they want him to gain some muscle, he could certainly do that in the NFL. But is that going to hinder his game? Is that going to impact the way he flies to the ball, the speed that he brings to the table? I'm not sure. I'd like to see him just get out there and see how he compares to the big boys right now as is.
Rob, I want to rewind a little bit to N'Kobe's teammate. We talked about Jordan Davis a little bit at the top here, but I want to delve a little bit deeper into him because I think you in Tampa have the guy when it comes to the interior of the defensive line, Vita Vea. And, there's a sentiment in the NFL that if you're not on the field in third downs, you shouldn't be the 13th overall pick in the draft. If you're not going to be on the field in the final 2 minutes when so many games are decided and you got to rush the passer, you're not worth the 13th overall pick. Is Vita Vea worth the 13th overall pick? What you get to see him up close a lot. How impactful is he?
I think Vita Vea is extremely impactful, but those questions surrounding Jordan Davis, they applied to Vita last year too. Yeah. There were oftentimes he wasn't out there late in a game. I think against the Rams on that late in the fourth quarter, he wasn't out there on the field. Big guy, size and stamina issues when on the field, extremely impactful, someone who can alter the game. But with guys that size, you have to stay on top of them. Their conditioning, their stamina to be able to get out there. Vita Vea, I don't believe, played over 40 snaps in a game all that often last year. He was in the 30, 35 range. So he's someone who, if Jordan Davis is going to be in that mold and play that kind of Pro Bowl caliber, all pro level type of nose tackle, defensive tackle kind of play, you're going to have to accept, because that's how, if you take that size off of these guys, are they going to be as effective? If I know that size may be hindering them conditioning wise, they're going to get tired. They're not going to be able to give you fresh legs in the fourth quarter unless you have that rotational depth that teams like the Eagles have. But if you take that size off, are they going to be that giant run stuffing, pushing the line? You lose 20 pounds, 25 pounds, they're going to affect your strength. Perhaps it depends on the guy, their makeup, their build. So I think Vita Vea is someone you look at as you hope Jordan Davis can play at that level. But know this with Vita, they have those issues here in Tampa with him. And that's talked about down here too as well. And I don't anticipate that's going to go away with Jordan Davis up north.
All right, Maaddi, man, NFL overall question for you, because you cover the entire league for the Associated Press, leaning toward Tampa and Philadelphia, but I know you cover the whole league. Statement made by Pete Carroll this week that if Drew Lock were in this past year's draft, he would have been the number one quarterback taken. I've seen Drew Lock. We've all seen Drew Lock. We see Drew Lock's numbers. Drew Lock's not good enough to be a starting quarterback in this league. So you're telling me you think every quarterback who is taken is going to be a bigger failure than Drew Lock in this NFL draft? How blatantly is he overrating the guy on his roster right now?
Extremely. He's also said that they weren't trading Russell Wilson a few days before they traded Russell Wilson. So I think that's Pete Carroll just hyping up his guy. Basically, that's what it is. Yeah, I think Bailey Zappi over Drew Lock, Sam Howell, Malik Willis. I mean, you don't even have to go Kenny Pickett and Matt Corral. Drew Lock is what he is, and he's a backup quarterback in the NFL, and they're going to give him an opportunity to compete for the starting job unless they decide they do want to go out and trade for Baker Mayfield or Jimmy Garoppolo. But Jimmy Garoppolo would be trading within the division, and right now still hasn't thrown a football. When I spoke to Jimmy, he said he wasn't going to throw till June, and we're not there yet. So it's hard to trade for a guy who still hasn't picked up the football yet. So I think Pete Carroll's just hyping up his guy, Drew Lock. He's probably, if you went back and put him in this draft, he might be a 7th round or an undrafted free agent.
Well, let's stick with quarterbacks, Rob, because, at the end of this sort of draft cycle, I was starting to feel bad for this class of quarterbacks. I was saying, they can't be this bad. They can't be this bad. They were crapping on them so much leading up to this draft. And guess what? The NFL backed it up. They really didn't believe in this class. There's one guy who gets drafted in the first round, Kenny Pickett at number 20. And I sort of got, and I told Jody this, Rob, I got sort of a Dan Marino hint on that because they didn't want to let another Pitt kid get by them like Dan Marino did back in the day. I think even that was sort of an outlier. And then after Kenny Pickett, not another quarterback until the third round. So the NFL really didn't believe in this quarterback class. What does Rob Maaddi believe in this quarterback class?
I think Kenny Pickett's got a shot to be able to step in there and be a starter early. He's competing against Mitch Trubisky. So it's not like he's got to go in there and beat an incumbent who's been there for years. He just arrived in Pittsburgh. They're both almost on the same level playing field as far as learning the offense, learning the system. So I think he can step in and maybe win that starting job immediately. I think Malik Willis is going to be a long-term type of project in Tennessee. Now, could he assume duties in 2023? Potentially, but he played at Liberty, and the caliber of talent that he faced was a question mark for a lot of the scouts and a lot of the teams, and that's why, despite the talent and the playmaking ability and he brings all those intangibles that Jalen Hurts brings to the table: the leadership, the character, the poise. You love everything about the guy, but you need to see him do it more. He's got a chance. I like his talent and ability. And then you look at Matt Corral and you go, there's some hope there that they're able to develop him. But we know there was none of that, those top 5, top 10, Justin Herbert, Joe Burrow type guys. What's crazy about this draft is you still had like a week leading into it, 10 days leading up to it, where people are like, oh, maybe 4 or 5 quarterbacks can go in the first round.
Yeah.
Like
I had 3 going. I had 3.
And they go for I don't do mock drafts. It's just, I don't want to be wrong on 31 out of 32 picks. Yeah. And I know I'm going to be wrong on 31 out of, but to have 4 or 5 potential first rounders, and then all of a sudden you only have 1, and then the next one's in the 3rd. And there was a lot of mock experts and draft analysts who were way off on this draft. And time will tell, but it's pretty crazy to see how the NFL viewed this class. And we don't know, guys, about next year. They say it's supposed to be a better class, but until they go out there and they play, and so much can happen between now and next year. And that's why we talk about, well, the Eagles got the 2 first-round picks, and maybe they see someone they target, and if Jalen doesn't develop, they go after him. Is that guy going to be more of a sure thing than Jalen Hurts if he's 3 years into it? I don't know yet. I don't know.
I will take a bow here because I said this quarterback class was going to stink from the previous year's draft right up until the draft. Keydon Slovis was the guy they were talking up after last year's draft, that he could be
Spencer Rattler. Don't forget Spencer
Rattler. I didn't like any of those guys. So some of us had it right. Yeah. My buddy Rick Saratella had the Eagles drafting a quarterback in the first round right up until the first day of the draft. Johnny Mac's partner, Game Day Kratz, still had hope that the Eagles were going to take quarterback. Didn't happen. The quarterback class wasn't good. I'm going to root for Kenny Pickett, Matt Corral, Willis. All right, good for you guys. Have a chip on your shoulder like Nakobe Dean. Go out there and be great. I didn't see it coming into the draft. All right, do want to put this one by Maaddi. John will tell you from the day after the draft, when the Eagles, and a couple of days thereafter, last week here on Birds 365, when the Eagles added 1 safety from Southeast, Northwest Tennessee, Chattanooga, as an undrafted free agent, they really haven't upgraded the position. It's actually gone backwards with Rodney McLeod going elsewhere. It dawned on me that maybe they could get their hands on a guy like Chuck Clark from Baltimore, because they had gotten Marcus Williams. They had drafted Kyle Hamilton. Chuck Clark is a starting caliber safety who might not have a starting position with the Ravens. I did see two places this weekend where the Ravens said, we have no intention of trading Chuck Clark. Really? How are you going to work with those 3 safeties in there? A devalued position in the NFL, and you got 3 guys you want to try and start. I like Chuck Clark since he took on Earl Thomas a couple of years ago, because Earl Thomas is one crazy SOB. And if you're ready to throw fists with him, you're okay with me. Were the Ravens pulling a Pete Carroll there, saying what they needed to say rather than what they actually meant to say? Is a guy like Chuck Clark going to become available?
Jody, absolutely. I heard Chuck Clark's name come up about a week ago too, as well, after the draft, and that was just someone that, if you're looking at the safety position and teams who now have the depth and the availability is there, we know the Ravens love to stop. Would they end up with 6 fourth-round picks?
Yeah,
they value their draft picks, and the Eagles had you got that 4 in. What they got the 2 next year, they got the 3 in 2024, so they got some picks. I don't think you would even have to trade something as high as 4 right now. I'm not sure what the value is there, but when the team comes right out and says they're not trading anybody, they don't have. In that case, I think it's similar to the Pete Carroll. Just saying that I've heard his name. I think he's a fit. I think they also have to address maybe cornerback, because you look at the cornerback position opposite Darius Slay. They didn't answer that. And I know a lot of people are hoping that the Giants will move on from James Bradbury and end up releasing him because of his contract so they could free up space. But I think the Eagles will have some competition there with Ron Rivera's Washington Commanders, where Bradbury was drafted in Carolina several years ago. So there's familiarity there. So I think there's some competition if that happens. But those are 2 positions they got to look to upgrade. And I don't know that you can go into the season right now hoping that Zach McPherson develops into that guy, maybe, and then relying on a whole bunch of Tay Gowans and Carrie Vincent Jr. and all these other guys and undrafted free. I like Vincent's last name for a cornerback. We know he's had some success in Philadelphia. There's no genes there, but if he could be anything like Troy was, they got their answer.
And Jody was discussing Reed Blankenship from Middle Tennessee State. Yeah, I think
it's middle. I thought it was northeast, southwest.
I think Chuck Clark.
Kind of like Florida. I don't know where Tampa is in the state of Florida. I'm directionally handicapped. I apologize for that.
A slight upgrade. I would think Clark would be over Reed Blankenship. But you mentioned
just a tiny
corner.
bit, guys. Just a tiny bit.
You mentioned corner. I saw recently you got a chance to talk to Dion on the AP Pro Football podcast. So everybody listen to that with Rob. Anytime I see Dion, the first thing I think about, Rob, is lockdown corner. And the second thing
that's the first thing you think about? I go Tim McCarver, him dumping Gatorade on Tim McCarver.
Yeah. Well, because I'm of the belief there's no such thing as a lockdown corner in the modern NFL. I think the best one is probably Jalen Ramsey. We saw Jalen Ramsey in high-profile playoff situations. Mike Evans, your Bucs get beat to me, gets beat by Cincinnati. Jamar Chase. I don't think Darrelle Revis, for Jody as a Jets guy, I do not think Darrelle Revis, Deion Sanders exist in the modern NFL. And, people expect it. Like when Ahmad Gardner comes in or Derek Stingley, people are going to expect Deion Sanders or Darrelle Revis. Am I wrong on that? Do you think it's potential to be a lockdown corner in the modern NFL?
It's increasingly harder because of the level of competition, the skill and the talent that wide receivers possess, and the fact that they're throwing 50, 60 times a game. Think about what lockdown corner means when it was Dion, when it was prime time, when it was Revis Island. Like, teams didn't throw to that side. Now think about it in today's NFL. I think these offensive coordinators and these coaches are in some ways too arrogant not to try and attack some of these guys, to say, wait, you mean to tell me this guy's going to be shut out of the whole game and we're not going to throw at him all game because there's Jalen Ramsey on the other side? And then from that perspective, from the cornerback's perspective, there's 60, 70 maybe offensive plays, defensive plays, and you're out there when you're a corner, you're not rotating in and out like a defensive lineman. You're not rotating. You're out there for every play. And to be a complete shutdown, you're not going to give up one play. You're not going to give up two plays. Like we've seen Darius Slay get beat often by DK Metcalf a couple of years ago. Devontae Adams by the Green Bay Packers. Come back and have great games. So, John, I agree with you. That term shutdown corner, those guys, they're not going to exist anymore just because of the sheer talent of the wide receivers, how difficult it is to shut these guys down, the volume that they're going to have to defend, more passing plays and teams coming after them. And it's hard not to give up one play. You get beat one time and it shows up at a 55-yard touchdown, and then you blanket your guy the rest of the game. You do a great job. He's got that one catch for 55-yard touchdown. It's going to be on highlights all day long. So I'm with you on that one.
Tough to be a lockdown corner. Yeah, I'm with John too. I don't know that it even exists anymore. All right, Rob Maaddi, on Thursday night here in Philadelphia, all Eagle fans will be waiting for the schedule to come out so they can get out their pen and go, Game 1, win. Game 2, Minnesota, win. All right, well, we got to pencil in a loss there and go through their entire schedule. As a guy who covers the entire NFL, do you go, all right, I can stay home for Tampa with this game. All right, I need to be in Philadelphia this game. Oh, rematch, Kansas City and Buffalo. Yeah, I'm getting on a plane for that one. Do you do your schedule Thursday night for the entire next 6 months after the NFL comes out with its schedule?
Jody, that's the first thing I look at is where am I going to be? Where do I want to be?
Right.
Where do I think I may end up? And what those, like last year, it broke down beautifully for me. The Eagles and Bucks didn't have the same home dates often. I was able to get up there for 5 Eagles games. I did 10 out of 11 Bucks home games, considering they made the playoffs, so that was nice. They played each other one time.
Yeah, they played each other.
I look at the Thursday games because I love Thursday and Monday night games because I can go to those and I'm not missing out on all the action. I don't have to catch up on the computer and on everything else. And then I look at where are they? Last year I took a Thursday to Miami. That's a hop, skip, and a jump for me. There was a Thursday in Philly. And I did a Thursday to LA. That was pretty stupid, flying out the morning of. And that I don't know. I don't want to go to LA on a Thursday anymore. But yep, that's exactly what I do, man. Forget the W's and L's. I used to do that when I was a kid, and now
that's a win.
Now I'm looking at the travel schedule. I'm looking at, all right, do I get his flights are going up. Flights are going up.
Yeah,
you know, it's something that just grabs my interest every single year. You go through the team schedule. You're an Eagle fan. You're going to do that. You don't do them right down. There's 1 or 2 that you skip. Some years there's 3 or 4 that you skip, and that's how you know it's going to be a great year. If you go through it once and you still got 3 or 4 that you haven't decided on yet, that means it's going to be a good season because you think it's going to be a hard schedule, a tough schedule, one that you can't figure out as a genius Eagle fan, because we all are. I'm looking forward to Thursday's night schedule coming out. Get your travel plans in order. Book it in advance so you can save some money while you're at it. Be glad to have you back here in Philly when you do. We'll try and get together for a cold one this year. Robbie, thanks for hopping on with us. Appreciate it.
Absolutely, fellas. Have a great week.
That is Rob Maaddi from the Associated Press. Check out his podcast, Faith on the Field, as well. Maaddi, always great. And we got to see him, unlike Joe Santoliquito. I'm going to bust Santoliquito's chops because we had to look at his little computer disk today. All right, you're stuck looking at us, McDonald and McMullen. Come back. We got 1 segment left to put a bow on the show.
Field of life, First Trust Bank is there for you.
Champions on three. 1, 2, 3.
Because Philadelphia dreams deserve a Philadelphia bank.
Do you stream on a Roku, Fire Stick, Android TV, or Apple TV? Now you can watch 6ABC 24/7 with the 6ABC Philadelphia streaming app.
The big story on Action News.
Search 6ABC Philadelphia and start streaming today.
In Philadelphia, we celebrated the miracle with pride only 5 years ago. And then the following morning, IBEW Local 98 members went back to work, building this city, rescuing our communities from decay, and inspiring the young men and women of the region to take pride in who we are. Like the Cats, Local 98 members believe in hope.
To learn more about who we are, what we do, and career opportunities with Local 98, visit us, IBEW98.org.
At Stateside Vodka, every new customer gets the world's best rocks glass, free.
What's that?
A rocks glass?
You're telling me that bottle is cut in half?
You could say that.
Holy shit. Glass is for cocktails, right?
It's for this, 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 and that.
Is the length of the glass equal to your...
You betcha.
But is it made out of...
Glass?
Okay, but is the rip...
Smooth?
Will you stop doing...
That?
I'm the professional here.
And you're telling me I can get one of these glasses for free?
That's right. 1 free rocks glass per customer with each first-time purchase of Stateside Vodka. All from the company that's highly awarded. 0 carbs, 0 sugar, and deliciously tasting vodka. So good, it just disappears.
Johnny Mac and Jody Mac putting a wrap on a Birds 365 Monday episode. Our buddy Joe Santoliquito jumped in earlier. We had him on Audible only, but he did something that I was hoping to hold off to the end of the show. We'll do it here, but Joe kind of let the cat out of the bag. Yesterday, Ray Didinger, who is, for my money, the godfather of Philadelphia football media and has been for decades here in town, announced on his WIP weekend show with my ex-partner, Glenn Macnow, that he's retiring at the end of the month, that he's going to step away from doing weekends on WIP and his NBC Sports television duties as well. I've had the privilege of working with Ray Didinger at both radio and in other venues. He is such a unique character. A word that we use often to describe players is unicorn. That if there just isn't someone else that you can compare to them, you consider them a unicorn. Ray Didinger is a unicorn too. You can't do what you and I do on a day in, day out basis, whether it's on the radio, whether it's on YouTube, whether it's on print, on a website or whatever. You're going to annoy some people. Some people are going to disagree with you. Some people are going to say, what the hell does this guy know? Some people are going to like you a lot, but some people are going to go, this guy's a joke. No one ever says that about Ray Didinger. He is universally liked. He is universally respected. That just doesn't happen as a member of the media in 2022, John. You're going to, become such a divisive universe in which we live. People want to be on one side of an argument or another. You have to choose sides. Nobody ever chooses sides against Ray Didinger.
Yeah. In Philadelphia, too, of all places. In Philadelphia, yeah, it'll never happen again. I don't know how he did it. I don't know. Just other than being a really nice human being and being really fair. And yeah, it's amazing. I think about that same thing a lot, Jody, and I'm like, wow, I don't even know how that would be possible to do today. But, you know, Ray had built up such goodwill over the years and, you know, doesn't have a cell phone. He's so old school, you know, probably the most prepared guy. You know, his notes are legendary. Yeah, I mean, he is, you know, we use the term goats. He used unicorn. That's what I put out. You know, Michael Jordan, Wilt Chamberlain, if you want to go back, but people talk Jim Brown in the NFL, on and on and on. When it comes to sports writing, you can put that little goat emoji up for Ray Didinger. Nobody did it better. Nobody is ever going to do it better. I feel very, very comfortable. The greatest compliment anybody ever gave me, Jody, was comparing me to Ray Didinger. It was just a random listener in South Jersey. And it, by the way, it's not true. I'm not trying to say it's true. It made me feel so good just being one listener one day said, oh, McMullen's like the Ray Didinger of South Jersey. And Mike Gill told me this story. And I'm like, that made me feel so good. And again, completely untrue. But that kind of speaks to the greatness of Ray Didinger.
It makes your day, makes your month, makes your year, as a matter of fact, if you're compared to Ray Didinger. And now that he's got all his free time on his hands, we're going to get him here on Birds 365. Except I don't know if he does streaming or not.
He was on. I was on with him on the middle when we had that show.
Did he do the middle?
He did do the middle.
Oh, damn. Then I can get him to come on with us.
Yeah. He'll do it.
He's going to be going to his granddaughter's baseball, softball games or whatever. He can carve 15 minutes out for he's an early riser. He'll get up for us.
And he did the mic drop. I think he had the 4 Emmys in the background. The 4 Emmy Awards. That's
he can
nice.
put whatever the hell he wants behind him if he's good enough to get up and come on with us. I will certainly be reaching out to Ray to get him to come on Birds 365. Job well done, my friend. Like 50 years of a job well done. Thank you very much for what you helped share with us as far as Philadelphia Eagle football goes for the last 5 decades. All right, McMullen and I aren't going to make 5 decades, but we're going to make at least one more show. I'm back tomorrow. You in, Johnny Mac?
Pushed out the door like Tom Donahoe. Until then, until I get pushed out the door.
Didn't know you were going Tom Donahue reference. Very good. All right, yes, we'll be back tomorrow right here on Birds 365 in 2 and 2.
You've been listening to Birds 365, the destination for the passionate Eagles football fan who bleeds green. If it's Eagles football, we're talking about it. Debate, inside the locker room, and guests that are some of the greatest football minds from around the region. We hope you enjoyed the show. We know we had a blast. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll be back soon. But in the meantime, hook up with us on social media at JAKIB Sports. See you next time on Birds 365.